So rather than deeply investigating the very complicated theories, concepts, and written materials on organizations in this boot camp, we're going to focus in on complexity. And we focus on complexity because complexity has a direct impact on organizational structure and impacts performance at your company. Of course, complexity can be necessary and can be good, so remember that. But it must be used to your advantage. But complexity can also be very bad and unhealthy for an organization, especially when it results in lower performance. So one of the major challenges for you as a manager is to avoid bad complexity and design in good complexity. So now let's discuss 3 important points you need to know about complexity. And the first point has to do with defining complexity. So we'll begin the discussion by considering the question, what is complexity? The second important point we need to understand better is how complexity occurs in an organization. And finally, the third point we need to address in this boot camp is what we can do to minimize bad complexity, if not remove it entirely in our organization. Okay, are you ready for a KISS discussion on complexity in organizations and why it's important? Our first point for discussion was, what is complexity? Well, to better understand complexity, we should first remember that simple, complicated, and complex systems or problems are not the same thing. Simple systems involve some basic issues which over time can be mastered. A good example of a simple system is a food recipe. Complicated systems, on the other hand, have many moving parts, but those moving parts in fact have a common pattern of movement, and these movements are predictable. And in addition to this, once you are familiar with those movements or parts or that complicated system, it's possible for you to achieve success, even with similar types of complicated problems in the future. A good example here is a rocket engine design. Once you design a complicated rocket engine, many of the things you learn in doing that can in fact be applied to the next complicated rocket engine you design. But complex systems, unlike simple or complicated systems, behave in ways that are constantly changing, self-organizing, and evolving. And because of this constant change, they're in fact unpredictable. A good example here is raising children, for those of you who have children. Unpredictable. So complex systems cannot be understood by using simple or complicated approaches in management, etc. And there are in fact 4 types of complexity. One form is imposed complexity. Imposed means includes things such as laws and regulations which make imposed complexity not easy to manage. The second form of complexity is inherent complexity, and that involves things that are inherited with the business you operate in. In other words, the givens. And often the only way that those givens can be removed is by stopping the activity altogether. The third form of complexity is designed complexity. And design complexity results from choices about where the business operates, what we sell, to whom, and how. We've designed the complexity into the business. And this form can be removed, but unnecessarily changing or removing it might be dangerous. It can have negative impacts for your business. And finally, the fourth form, which is the most complicated form, is complexity that is unnecessary. Unnecessary complexity is the most dangerous for a business because it influences the alignment between organizational needs and the essential processes in an organization which support those needs. But unnecessary complexity is manageable if you can identify it. So those are the 4 forms of complexity: imposed, inherent, designed, and unnecessary. And please remember, unnecessary complexity is the most dangerous for your organization, and you must focus on removing it from the organization.